Sorry, you just captivated my interest.
Well, come on over.
What's wrong?
Come on over. God, Dan, you don't be a voyeur.
We're all friends now, right?
No. What do you want to know?
No, I'm just curious what big tragedy you're related to.
Oh, okay. So,
Is that right? I mean,
well, my tragedy. So I think part of the tragedy is one is my parents disregarded them.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to kick off the evening. Get yourselves a round of applause if you're listening. They're not listening. Then how come you're not hearing a round of applause? Then give a round of applause if you're listening, and I get this. Okay, so I'm going to do the short version of the introductory checklist of list. So if you get surprised because you don't hear what I'm saying, that's not my problem. It says, poetry of all kinds, ladies and gents, is welcome, but we ask you to respect the mic. That means keeping conversations to a whisper, put phones on mute or vibrate, and do not distract the speakers or pass in front of them, or actually just pass. That's also very rude. Also, keep to the time limit, usually 5 minutes, but nowadays 4 is better. I mean, it varies a little bit because if it gets really crowded, I like getting everybody on the mic, and so try to go short on your time. Let's see, we have 2 shows, the 7-ish, which we're going into right now, and the 8:40-ish. Sometimes it's the 8:20-ish, sometimes it's the 8:15-ish. So by going short on time, it helps everyone get on the mic. That's one of the longest term traditions we have here. If you want to be in the loop, we have an opt-in email list. You'll have to see me about that, and or one of my fine companion hosts over here, which is Buford and Sharon. Let's see what else is there. Let's see. Also, we have a Facebook page, and that link up on the wall is where you can find this live streaming and also the streaming recordings of other evenings we've had here. The ongoing theme is never doubt that a small group of committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. That's Margaret Mead. Now, can you tell me what the evening's theme is, my dear down
Is anarchy with a pacifist twist?
Yeah, anarchy with a pacifist heart or something like that, yes.
Who brought that one up?
I don't remember. John Philip Sousa, actually. He came to me in a dream one night. Next week's,
let me just do this because this will be, I'll be up here. I'll just.
Next week's feature, Jim Morrison. No, he's dead. No, we're going to have Julie Rogers, who is knows Peter Martay, and so Peter Martay was here a week or so back. Julie Rogers is going to follow up. And let's see what else do we got here. We have the keynotes this evening. The keynote is Tommy Abakolemeke. You're the keynote, right? Okay, you were going like this. You confused me. I'm very easily confused. I look in the mirror and wonder who I am. Let's see. The features, of course, Brian Doherty was sitting right here. Give him a round of applause. He's come all the way across the pond, as they say. Let's see this. As far as the second show, Mr. Sandrell is kicking it off. We have a mini feature of Vincent. And then, let's see. Mini feature is Vincent, and the Sandrell, of course, closes it. Now we have some fabulous door prizes here, and after I do that, I'm going to read something very quickly. Let me introduce these door prizes to you, as he say. This is Venezia, wine of Venice. I don't know. This is a little anthology that we produced for people here. Truths and Voices saying grounds are sacred. The Pelican history of medieval Europe. And it goes like this: war, then war, then war, then 5 wars, then 3 wars, then 2 wars. About 5 minutes, then war. Okay. The Victor of Dibley. People know about that. Other Victor of Dibley. This is a triple set. This is only a 1 single set. Tom Clancy without remorse. He does have remorse now that he's dead. Is he dead? I don't think so. Life of Brian, this is the script, right? It's the script. Life of Brian. So if you want to go there and go, he didn't say that. He did.
Just
kidding.
Island Beneath the Sea by Isabel Allende. Writer's Dreaming, and this is by Naomi Appel.
That seems to be a anthologist. It's all these different writers.
Oh, okay, she's the anthologist, so
all
it's
these
all these.
different writers relating their dreams and how they feed into
So there's
it.
Anne Rice, Jack Petruski, John Nichols, Stephen King, Elmore Leonard, James Hall, Amy Tan. Those are a few people that I know. Oh, Isabella Edney is in this. Maya Angelou, Clive Barker. You know, so there's
Marlon Brando? No Jack Parr?
he's not up to par right now.
Steve Allen?
Steve Allen's not in there. And also, if you want to read a SPLC newsletter, I get those, and I've read it, and this makes me sick. So not what they do, but what they have to deal with. So those are the grand prizes of the evening, door prizes. Let me go back up here and make sure this. Oh yes, the last thing. This is something new that I do every once in a while. There you go. Hand you that. I'll take this. So I don't know if you're familiar. Many people are not familiar with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, of which there are 30 articles. And I heard recently that they're considering adding a single article to that list of 30, making a 31st. And according to what I heard, they want to add an article to the effect that people do not have to, they have the right to decline military service.
Yay!
So anyway, this version, after I read it before, Richard gave me some clues, so I rewrote it a little bit, and I'm looking for, anyway, here. It says, Article 31, the right of refusal, that's what I'm calling it, give it a name. Whereas the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the Declaration, is protected by the rule of moral law, to wit, everyone everywhere shall enjoy universal freedom from fear or want, as well as security and the recognition of the dignity and worth of the human person. Whereas no state, organization, or class of people can compel any of their constituent citizens or members to violate any of the many certain inalienable rights set forth in the Declaration. Whereas individuals have the right to refuse compulsory military service or support or substitute for such. Sorry about that. Therefore, it is incumbent on anyone anywhere to support those who exercise their right of refusal under the proposed Article 31 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So then I'm asking for affirmations, a yay on that. Yes, yays. Yays, we got some yays, and nays. We have 2 yays in a couple of days. All right, well then that's at least, huh?
Abstentions?
Oh, abstentions? Yeah, we got an abstention. So I have affirm consider in tonight, because this is not the official thing. If you have issues with the way it's written, and you want to add something or subtract something or tell me about something, I will make amendments to it. This is like the practice readings of these things until it's set in its form. All right, so who is, the keynote?
Tommy.
Tommy Abacola-Mecca, come on up here, please.
Okay, so being the rebel that I am by nature, I'm not going to read poetry or fiction or anything so-called literary for this, but something that really made me happy lately, and that is Greta Thunberg's speech before the UN, the 16-year-old Swedish girl. And even though I believe that saving the environment is hopeless at this point, I am really thrilled to see young people rising up and saying, fuck you adults, you fucked this up. I'm really happy to see that, even though I feel a sense of hopelessness and despair, but I really liked her speech, and I'm going to read it to you, so you have no choice but to listen to it.
All right.
I wish it was her up here saying it to us, but my message is that we'll be watching you. This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words, and yet I'm one of the lucky ones. People are suffering. People are dying. Entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you? For more than 30 years, the science has been crystal clear. How dare you continue to look away and come here saying that you're doing enough? when the politics and solutions needed are still nowhere in sight. You say you hear us and that you understand the urgency, but no matter how sad and how angry I am, I do not want to believe that. Because if you really understood the situation and still kept on failing to act, then you would be evil, and that I refuse to believe. The popular idea of cutting our emissions in half in 10 years only gives us a 50% chance of staying below 1.5 degrees and the risk of setting off irreversible chain reactions beyond human control. 50% may be acceptable to you, but those numbers do not include tipping points, most feedback loops, additional warming hidden by toxic air pollution, or the aspect of equity and climate justice. They also rely on my generation sucking hundreds of billions of tons of your CO2 out of the air with technologies that barely exist. So a 50% risk is simply not acceptable to us. We who have to live with the consequences. How dare you pretend this can be solved with just business as usual and some technical solutions? With today's emission levels, that remaining CO2 budget will be entirely gone within less than 8.5 years. There will not be any solutions or plans presented in line with these figures here today because these numbers are too uncomfortable and you are still not mature enough to tell it like it is. You are failing us, but the young people are starting to understand your betrayal. The eyes of all future generations are upon you, and if you choose to fail us, I say, we will never forgive you. We will not let you get away with this. Right here, right now, is where we draw the line. The world is waking up and change is coming, whether you like it or not. Thank you.
Who's after Antoinette? And then Britt.
Yeah.
Hi, Sacred Grounds.
Hi.
First tonight,
New poems, right?
new poems, yeah.
Woohoo!
This one actually I read last week, but I added on to it, so I'm going to read it again. When you died, love collected in corners of my eyes, tight throat, hollowed heart. Passion had nowhere to go. I did not sit with you that night, did not say you were dying. Burnt sage instead, held your hand, wet your lips, prayed, then woke to silence. Everything changes, whether loved or feared. September breeze through open window carries memos of our best selves. I swear, crows know when I step out into bright sun, shadow, overcast days. They caw, calling out. My clear, loud voice rings high in their trees or rooftops. Greetings, hello, crow, stops mid-cacophony. 1 second of silence before cheer, cheerful, charmer, tea kettle, dee, do, jay. Interspecies talk, sing, chant, enjoy, compassion, strength, gifts given to myself to share today. Thank you. Dear me, I love it when you bathe. That 1902 clawfoot tub fits fine. Dr. Teal's bubble bath, Himalayan sea salt, silky skin, float inner organs suspended, delicate, sweet, soaking balm. Smile, purposeful greeting, push past socially awkward swimming holes, turn positive outcome baptisms. Present memory, old perceptions brought back to life, relived anger, recalled injustices. causeless reoccurrence, hidden agenda, all created to forget the one who is cause of all. And last. A lie, a story we made up about our love, makes my world crisp, easily breakable. Familiar family aside, we make new ones, touch each other, connected, coupled. Branch out, listen, shiny, trembling leaflets, truth aged beauty like bougainvillea. Calm culprits crawl among weeds before camera lens, following spirit guide, November 1980. Pregnant breasted, sunlit afternoon offered more than her Mars bar.
And after Britt is Bruce.
Give Britt Peter a round as he comes up, please. And Bruce is on deck.
Okay, anarchist with a pacifist heart. Another leaflet. Anarchists and pacifists are greatly misunderstood. Not all anarchists are bomb throwers. Not all pacifists are wimps. Kropotkin called anarchism voluntary association. So being an anarchist is a choice and responsibility. If you are a hod carrier or soldier, you are not often asked why you became a hod carrier or soldier. But a burden of proof lies heavily on an anarchist or pacifist. Do you believe in a supreme being? How do you fit or help our society? Do you really belong? Can you be trusted? Lao Tzu, État de la Bête, Tolstoy, Bart Delete, Ammon Hennessy, and the architects of secular pacifism pondered these and other questions deeply, usually in a jail cell, a tradition not to be denied or ignored. Just maybe they've been further around the shit pot looking for the handle than the practitioners of real politics. Those privileged bastards have been from home. Anarchists and pacifists sometimes show the same determination, have the same desire for justice and equity. Why do these words often show up in their vocabularies? Non-resistance, resistance, civil disobedience, community, mutual aid. And why does a wry smile cross their faces when they hear these words intoned again? Allegiance, authority, paternalism, patriotism.
Oh.
And a shorter one on the same theme, the hard edge of anarchism, the wanting to tear down the tired, the sentimental, the old order. Tom Paine and the Divinity of Kings, Blake and Creosote, Thelonious Monk and Round Midnight, move past mawkish endings and soft ballads. Blind Willie in the Rain, if I had my way, if I had my way, I'd tear this building down.
That's right. Thank you.
Good job.
Bruce, and then who's after Bruce?
After Bruce is Edward Mike.
Edward Mike Q on deck.
I'm Bruce and I'm new here.
Hey, Bruce.
You gotta get very close to the mic.
Okay. Am I close enough?
Yeah, that's good. You can hear it.
Nourished by grit and sand. I fell into life, then I fell again as the highland flower falls into delicate blossoming. And the blood streaming through my veins, such order, such planning, such love. Who keeps the knife sharp? Who whets the stone? I keep my jewels inside my darker closet. Animals teach me how to use them. There is the sun and the non-material sun. I soak up its warmth in the marrow of my ravines. I didn't ask to be deepened. I just followed my father's footsteps into the midnight realm of hungry demons. Maybe I didn't suffer enough. Maybe the invisible bread is still baking. I build my altars of sticks and mud, new moon reflected on the water. As day pours into night, spring into fall, youth to maturity, then old age and decay, my hard angles and unfed fragments morph into soil. There are other parts of me, dark with ordinariness, ordinary clay with ordinary hands and an ordinary face, trying to pretend differently. But I am as plain as a field of grass. I live closer to the roots than the blades and the stalks, in a room by the quiet lake, shimmering in a late night silence that is fertile, fecund, a burial ground and a spring planting. As I am burying something and planting something, even if I don't know what, in the little clearing of the next moment, where the pregnant water gurgles and there is warmth from the lotus flower flame, formed in the heat and compression of the suffering I should have tossed away. An ordinary flame inside ordinary flesh. I wasn't aware of the offerings I made, but I am aware of your touch. To grow, to change, and to let go, that's what bodies do in this world. It's better not to have answers or intentions, because they can often create separation from the murmuring prayers of the primeval forest from the larger flow. Really, it's better to carry stones and be weighed down, better to be grounded. I gather up the leaves and blossoms that my mom and dad discarded without much thought, gather the parts I didn't want to see and the parts I don't have eyes yet to see. Rubies and pearls can be mixed in with the wreckage.
Thank you so much. Bruce President, the next coming feature, we're working that out, right?
And then after Edward is Stephen Hendricks.
So Stephen Hendricks on deck and the Honorable Mr. Mike here. Let me make this better here for you. And just go, right close, straight on, and right off. And, there you go.
Smearing murals in the damaged community in Overture. The rivers are crowded, the bottoms are flooded, trees dip their branches, large life has narrowed. Spring dreams hatch new desires, whirring against a blue sky. Fierce winter comes, and in its ices, I see old faces. There are still state lotteries and taxes on salt. Hospitals open all night. Foods preserved and contaminated. I see paintings without faces and genitals larger than lust. Though there are vines in the lupine and light booms in the surf. But there will be no new city. Even dragon's teeth rot when planted. He's dead or anonymous with him, and vice versa. And in the marketplace it is decreed. The gardenia raves, mad before extinction. Beaver squeezes dry nipples. An unveined eye squats, accepts. In the nights of closed windows at the edge of the hissing ocean, very heavy, captured, killed, odor of decay in tender flesh. Sirens rage, and without warning, my embittered heart breaks through these honeyed lips in this garden. No birds sing, while out on the streets our lives come out in words. Rewards for failure, jails for arrogance, and all artists are outlaws. Real art is revolting. We will be forgiven if we are ineffective. I am the I. I am not I living inside the belly of the monster, as the belly of the monster, brutalizing, brutaled by my lifetime. There is no center, but only process. Beauty may be the red petal Orlando found pressed in the leaves of art through the ages, and the tension between revolt and reflection. All rot, earth inheriting everyone. Suns slam down days, muting, rotting. Wolf and calf may fart together in another world. But blue crystal acid remains. It is not reciprocated. The dye has no music in it, in the damaged community.
After Stephen is always.
Give Stephen a nice round when he comes up, please. And Owen is on deck.
The old wounds.
Hold on. Get it. Go right in.
The old wounds resurface with each new one. They no longer hurt. They merely stand as evidence now to support the current defense, or as weapons when we go on the offensive and try to get the other to feel what we feel. Is it a way of getting even? Or are we simply looking for the compassion that was absent when the wound was caused? The old wounds don't seem to bother us when we're making each other laugh or pushing a shopping cart down the aisle while the other reads from the grocery list, or when a hand lightly brushes the other's arm, inadvertently perhaps, but in just the right way to heighten the senses, expand the chest, and alter the breathing. We can't let the old wounds go, though, because we believe there must be some deeper purpose they serve. They've made us who we are on some profound level we haven't yet been able to identify, and likely never will. But we'll keep searching them. We'll keep searching them out in times of reflection, with the hope they will betray themselves to us in a light that will allow us to finally put them to rest. The words we've lost. There's something I want to say to you right now, but I don't have the words, and I can feel their absence. A perfect word hovering over and around a void. I remember learning it in elementary school or junior high, but now it won't come to me. And I question if the word exists at all, or if this is one of those false memories they talk about, an endless seeming. So many things I feel I want to say now, but no words to say any of them. And so the silence is pregnant with anticipation until finally I walk away and you walk away, and the words remain hidden somewhere beyond reach. Speak, shadows. Speak, shadows. You know oppressive absence better than any. Speak at night when it's safe, when shadows embrace. Speak in whispers. Let the wind carry your words through the silence. Speak of the unseen, the light of knowledge, the cloaked assassin truth. Speak, shadows. Fire your words so they blaze, then melt away.
Thank you.
Owen, and then Brandon.
Owen and then Brandon.
Owen.
There you go. Mr. Owen Dunkel.
Thank you.
Okay, this is my latest poem. It's called Poema. Forts of thought, the chase, going after words like lace in a race of bodies and beauties, up to our necks in sand and surf. Again the waves roll gently onto the shore. Save all you can, there is fire adrift on the rocks of Greece, of Christ and love for ourselves that has been put aside on the shoals of the gentle tide of free verse. The false horses of promise, the hope of false Fenry, thee. Reading. Dead silence, there is the roar of silence passing the patrons as they walk to and from the library. Poema. Complacent as the day is long, books and papers do belong on the library shelves day after day. I do delve going in and out, up and down, corners and horners I see around the street. There are corners and crevices. I am bound. Mourners and poets sit by themselves in the calm library of Congress and transgressions. Senate in the House. Of course it is folly to declare war. Troops and tanks go forth, one by one. Opus of the library began at the sleepy soul of 2 o'clock. Ziz can scintillate itself, riding into the sunset at 4 o'clock. The slow flow of oxygen keeps my mood afloat. Henry James Jones, keep together with strokes of the pen and sword. Mozart loved to spend money, saith Franz Starry, who resides in Montrose, California. Today, the heat alights on the pavement as each ray of sun melts itself into the hot ground. Another day of heat chills clamps on my heart and brain in the darkened light of the library. Heat, macadam that melts in my sight as the sun sets high on Hollow Hate Street, rushing by the people I meet on the way to Shangri-La. A sort of cool parade. Rah, rah, rock and roll, the soul, the warp and woof of coal and abandon, tasteful as the grove of trees on peaceful Page Street. Sometimes I meet a friend, a fellow poet and passerby, who looks straight ahead like a soldier of soul, the roll and pitch of yearning and discerning. Memoir, a sonnet. Of each passing glance from a woman turned girl upon the library steps, cool and calm in the hate, to the sand and surf on a hot day in moody September, I begin to count the hours to which I scamper and woo every second of windless heat and frolic, of which the simple second after second of rhyme and reason, of free verse and summer solstice, cringing from a brisk autumn refrain. Park. Golden Gate Park at the edge of Haight Street, perpendicular to Standing Street, another tomorrow's. Oh yes, tomorrow will come, but where will I be? Off and beyond, going to another world, had be but worlds and words in a wordless world, words in a world that can kill me, sharp like the teeth of a piranha fish biting. I'm like a placid cow in the midst of the Amazon. Words of their world that is razor sharp and biting, tearing me down.
Thank you, Mr. Owen.
So thank you very much.
All right. Go ahead. Beautiful.
Brandon is next, and after Brandon is Tommy.
And then after Tommy is Red Rainbow then.
Greetings.
Greetings. Give him a round of applause. Come on. He hasn't been here in 20 years.
I know. With applause like that, I don't need to read anything. Just sit back down, right? No, this is a fairly new piece. It's called They Don't Make Them Like That Anymore. They don't make them like that anymore. 88 Lincoln Town Car, LA to Baltimore. 5-liter V8 uphill that once roared, singing boat car eulogies on its way to the shore. Your picture stuffed into the cigarette drawer, spilling memories like twisted audio cord from cassette decks, where I'm stuck on side A, your name spilling off my lips like credits at the beginning of an old movie score. They don't make them like that anymore. Vincent Price and Chris Lee sharing vampire lore, nights watching scary movies, suspense without gore, unafraid, popping secrets like snacks under butter we pour. An odometer rolling over once more. Your smell, like lavender kisses, comfort me like never before. Seeing fields of dreams and Kevin Costner scenes, plush leather seats and saddle soap streams down my palms which weren't quite so warm. They don't make them like that anymore. Touch lamps with your fingerprints, voice message recorders with your greetings, rotary phones where I can call you back, bench seats we made love on, kisses to an 8-track, trunks big enough to store a spare tire and car jack to save me that you bought from Montgomery Ward, yellow cabinets and linoleum floors that you swept me away on to love and adore, lifetime warranties, Sunday morning chores, sepia smiles and honeymoon shores, Technicolor tears, antique promises, and 3 children that were all we could afford. I couldn't have asked you for more. Goodbye kisses like soldiers coming home from the war. Early retirements paid for with coupon drawers. A Rolodex of friends to call for a funeral in Baltimore, so large it was held outdoors. They don't make them like that anymore.
Thank you.
Tommy?
And he's coming up because he was the keynote. The keynote always comes back and does his own thing, just so you know. People get excited about it. Yeah.
So,
Yeah!
okay, so this is to the theme, and I wanna dedicate it to that certain someone I met at the Anarchist Book Fair several years ago. He said, "I only sleep with anarchists." I said, "I'm an anarcho-socialist." He said, "Then I can only sleep with half of you." I said, "Can I choose the half?" We decided to go for a snack. He said, "I only eat vegan." I said, "Me too." We skipped the restaurant and went to my place where we knew exactly what was on the menu. Actually, a true story. The dialogue was kind of like that, but I fixed it up a little.
Make it nice.
Yeah, made it real nice for you folks. Ready for me to channel Judy Garland?
Oh, Judy!
Impeachment, impeachment, that wonderful sound. It's all over town. Impeachment, impeachment, let's spread it around. Bet your bottom dollar you'll feel the heat of impeachment, impeachment. Just like Tricky Dicky came tumbling down. Impeachment, impeachment. Oh, what a lovely, lovely sound it is. I'm Nancy Pelosi, and I finally approve of this message. Oh, really? Yeah, I actually watched some videos just to try to get that down. Okay, so 2 more little quickies.
Quickies?
Quickies, yeah. Everything's got sexual innuendo today, right? Which one? A or B?
A. B. C.
B.
L.
I'm not a sinner. Never was. There is no sin. No God watching me. No devil tempting me. No commandments I must follow. All those years I laid awake scared of retribution I didn't deserve. All the wasted hours confessing in that little dark box where the priest was too inquisitive about how many times I touched myself. All the foolish prayers said in haste or desperation, only to find they always went unanswered. All the guilt over feelings I had for boys in my class. All the fear that I would burn for all eternity. I don't know where I'm going when I expel my last breath. It's not heaven or hell or any place we know. It's simply where I'm meant to go. I'm going to end on this short poem that's right from the news. Who would do it? Set a homeless man on fire while he slept. What? Who would light the cardboard box the man occupied? A flimsy makeshift shelter, the only shelter he had. Who would stand there and take pictures as the fire spread and engulfed the box? The smell of something burning woke the homeless man. He tried to put the fire out with a bottle of water. The fire department had to extinguish the flames set to burn a homeless man in a cardboard box while he slept. The only shelter he had. Who would do it? Maybe we don't want to know.
Rainbow. Rainbow. Oh.
And then me.
And then you.
And then me. All right.
Is it your first time?
No, he's been here before.
Yeah.
Raise it up because you have to get straight into it.
Oh, okay. Okay. This is called In the Center of It All. In the center of it all, beyond the wall, according to cosmic law, the invisible Atman, whom I just had to see, turns out only to still be me after all. Atman in relation to the Supreme Brahma, Paratma, are in perfect harmony. They agree. I see myself in Atman and realize to my surprise that he is me and I am he. But what about the human aspect? With all due respect, a lot of it's bullshit. But dig it, life had a lot to do with yoga and the union, the blending of matter and spiritual, a sort of celebration of creation, emancipation, liberation from the shackles of society, to be free, really free. Then thought I, who better qualified to ask me who I am but me. And what of all this body identification, gender illusion leads to such massive confusion, both near and far don't know who they are. Oh, boys and girls, all woman and man, neither of these are we, but pure consciousness itself, energy, just energy. Body identification will eventually lead to your own annihilation. The whole world, these bodies, it's all temporary, don't you see? We can either live in the prison of ignorance or be free. Which way do you want to be? I'd be willing to bet you know where it's really at. Can you dig it?
Thank you.
All right. This brings me to you, or vice versa.
Probably vice versa. Okay, let me get this organized here. I'm going to do something I don't usually do. What?
What? Oh. I thought someone was saying something to me.
I'm saying something. Thank you.
So,
if you haven't had a chance to read Ordinary Villains by E.K. Keith, it's a book I recommend. And I was looking at it, actually, maybe last night or this morning, I can't remember. And these ones stood out to me, so I'm going to read these. E.K. Keith, Mass Incarceration. America reaches for delusional bootstraps that slap back like a belt, whipping people of minimum wage. America believes it's criminal to be crazy in the land of free samples and the home of the brave soldiers who trade their sanity for false promises of the future in the poverty draft. America won't hire veterans or felons, not even if you've served your time. Mass incarceration breeds a culture of alienation, and America's self-hatred is inevitable recidivism. For all the problems that she's caused them, America blames the children, and she solves them like a vicious mother who eats her young. Thank you. This is E.K. Keith. Climate change. This heat grips me like the pleather embrace of a discount dominatrix. I like it. You may call me perverse, but I like it. This new heat in northern cities. San Francisco's never been a frigid bitch, and she's always been for sale. Her sweat stinks of sweet steam beer. It's sometimes hard to navigate her silicone valleys, her devil's slide. But I cling to her commands. Flip that switch, drive me, drive, drive. Her wish is my command. I am a willing slave, and everything I do heats her up. Sweat dribbling down, fishnets into stiletto boots.
that's nice, eh?
And then this is the last little one, dumpster dive. I don't know if you know dumpster diving, but I know dumpster diving. I found a 2-carat diamond ring, dumpster diving, set in gold. Thing was worth like $2,000 or $3,000. Who would throw that in a dumpster? Anyway, dumpster dive. Do you want to go dumpster diving the corner store? Oh, you want to go dumpster dive at the corner store? In my mind's eye, I see ripe produce riddled with tiny spiral trails of radioactive isotopes. I say, I admire your urban survival skills, But you've been freaking out about plutonium all day, and now you want to rescue food that's been overexposed? He says, well, I guess that's true. At least we won't have to worry about the botulism or salmonella. Thank you.
EKP. Yasmin, and then who? And then Martin Joseph.
Oh, okay.
Yasmin, but yeah, here now. Well, let me adjust that for you because you know how to do that one. Professional.
Okay, the Mughal Empire, the ones who built the Taj Mahal in India, at its zenith was richer than Queen Victoria's treasuries. So they were abundant in their treasures. The last Mughal emperor was banished to Zafar, was his name, was banished to Burma. Just a backdrop and a scene from the novel. Abdul's reputation as a cook had long been established. The guests came from suburbs and from the neighboring town of Pune. They came to eat the famous biryani cooked by Abdul and sit up half the night listening to an equally famous singer from Pakistan. Father had hired Ali Sahib to come once a week and vocalize the poetry of Ghalib and Iqbal. I remembered Ali Sahib stopping in the midst of lyrics and saying, "The Mughal Empire is not dead. It thrives here at Kolaba police station. This is the house of revival of Persian poetry." The guests had cheered and applauded, and Ali Sahib bent low, touching his forehead with the tips of his right hand. I rose from the window next to Nani. Grandmother's stories would never be complete. I wanted to hear different stories. I had heard her stories over and over again. I loved the rain dripping from the papaya tree. Tomorrow, Nani would forget her stories. Tomorrow, the rain would stop. Perhaps not. The evening began with scent of rose water and sprinkled from silver vases. The rice dish was lined with almonds and pistas and dates. The food was served on bone china plates, which were delivered to our doorstep by constables on duty at the thieves' market, where the stolen china was bartered. Unclaimed merchandise was confiscated by the police and placed in the care of the officer in charge. Guests belched after dinner and congratulate mother for having the finest cuisine in the city. Abdul gave them a toothless smile, withdrew into the kitchen where I had occasionally heard him curse the guests. If I died from fatigue tomorrow, they'd think only of their biryani, those scums. Ali Sahib pumped his harmonium announcing the commencement of the music. The guests filtered into the upstairs room, furnished with mattresses and enormous bolsters. People removed their sandals and reclined in the anticipation of the event. Ali Sahib cleared his throat. Father began the show with words from Omar Khayyam. A book of verse, a cask of wine, and thou. The maestro interrupted him. Why Khayyam when we have Ghalib? The maestro interrupted him again. With that comment, he began to sing. Music filled the home. At the completion of a particularly compelling couplet, the audience shouted their approval. Wah wah. They gave their salutations. Some wailed into the musician and placed money on the instrument. Subhanallah, may God be praised. Brother and I sat in the corner laughing at the comical gestures and overturns from the guests. We picked up the pan on the silver trays and served it to the gathering. Do you understand the meaning of the lyrics? Father asked us as we sat beside him. Never forget, you are a Mughal. Your heritage is rich. You are the descendants of emperors. He proceeded to translate the man's words. Father shook his head in sorrow as he mentioned Zafar, one of the last of the great emperors. He was penniless and banished by the British, a king who owned kingdoms and was finally not given 6 feet of land in his own kingdom to make his grave. Can you imagine what he felt? Father looked at us in earnest. Like Hamlet, after the murder of his father, I was proud of the analogy. Like Romeo, brother rejoined. Father was furious. This is your mother's doing. English school she sent you to. And you don't even know your own culture. You are a disgrace to your forefathers. You are the offspring of a woman, not of a man. He discarded us to Mother with a gesture of annoyance. Mother placed my hand on her lap and covered my head with the border of a sari. The transparent line sheltered me from the overhead light which penetrated through the cloth. My poor little oyster, Mother's voice was audible in spite of the music. You're meant to be a fair little Mughal princess, and you turn out to be. I shut my eyes as if my sense of hearing could block my sense of sight. A uniformed policeman stood at the door and sent a servant to announce his presence. Father was summoned urgently to the police station. He asked Mother to make sure the guests were all right. Later that night, after the guests had left, I woke up to the screams resounding from the upper room of the Colaba police station. The shadows of the room kept me awake. In the faint light from a kerosene lamp, I watched the officer strap a man till the faint cries became extinct in the newly emerging raindrops. They placed a bamboo pole behind the kneeling man's neck, strung his arms over the pole, and belted him till he stood on his toes. I couldn't see the boots in the night, but the sun made them shine in the day as the officers marched in the courtyard of the station. Afraid to tell anyone about the room above the station, I spoke to the effigies strung from the lampposts of politicians. The puppets became my dolls, and I told Father that he was doing his job. He had to beat the convicts, otherwise they would not confess. But the effigies swayed in the wind as if in protest at my suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Martin Joseph.
Martin Joseph. Oh, okay. You didn't line up anybody, so
Okay.
And then
What?
You didn't say who was next.
you didn't say who's well. The feature's next.
The features,
Right.
yes.
Your head's a little out of the picture, Martin.
My what?
Okay, yeah.
Well,
Get a little higher.
let me move my head then.
You got it.
Everybody, stay in focus. Ready? Anytime you're ready. Good evening, Sacred Grounds.
Good evening, Martin Joseph.
Back in 1522, you may remember, there was a fellow named Nicholas Erasmus Rosterdamus, and he came up with a proverb that said, "In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king." I dedicate tonight's poem to that. It's called, "In the Land of the Blind." If you are the one-eyed man in the land of the blind, you'd better watch out. They may not make you king. Not that monarchy and aristocracy have ever been a good form of government. They might instead seek to put your eye out to make you like everyone else, so that they won't have to fear you. Not that there still won't be residual fear even after they put your eye out, because after all, you have seen, and they don't know if they can trust that. Good old Erasmus. He might have been a tad optimistic about the state of things when he invented the proverb. After all, it was the height of the Renaissance. It looked like the old regime was being overthrown, and people were predicting good times ahead. We know better now. They say that the first sign of intelligence is awareness of your own environment. So if you are the one-eyed man in the land of the blind, before you open your mouth, perhaps you had better check around. Check first to see if you are the only one-eyed man in the land of the blind. If you are late to the party, it is possible that you will be invited as an honored guest into the court of an earlier one-eyed king. It is possible that the one-eyed king will want first-sighted company, that he or she will want to share in their benevolence and rejoice in your different perspective. It is possible It is also possible, according to the equations of quantum mechanics, that all of my atoms will reassemble themselves in the next room with an instant's notice. It is mathematically possible, but not very likely. The land of the blind measures its years in red beads, each of which is a lifetime. In its collective memory is a carnival parade of one-eyed men and women who use their vision for sorcery, to enslave and to kill, to separate themselves as a master class at a terrible cost to everyone else. Embedded in the collective memory is a midrash, a reading between the lines to beware the one-eyed man, for he may be the Al-Dajjal who leads us all to destruction. He may be the one who can see the original spirit, water, and blood, while converting these visions into the Father, the Son, and the Holy Sword. Out in space, our astronomers tell us there is one place, a single source of water enough to cover 140 trillion planets the size of Earth. So the truth is, we are not alone. There are definitely those whom we would call aliens. We just don't know if we are alone in this apartment, on this street, in this world, in this particular segment of the cosmos. We do not know what kind of alien lowriders may be cruising our neighborhoods. We do not know if when they find us, we will still be here, living and breathing, or just the archaeological ruins of a very nice try. We do not know if the aliens will have a sense of humor. As they sift through our trash heap, I can see one of them nudge the other and say, "Hey, look at this. These guys made it to the Intel i9 processor. It must have pissed off the privileged 35mm people to have videographers stare them in the face with full equivalence." But then they also had Donald Trump. No wonder we're sifting through their trash rather than having a global meeting ceremony. I can see the second alien holding up a scroll and clicking his mandibles. It says here that Erasmus believed in free will and Martin Luther did not. Martin Luther must have been right. Otherwise, how would they end up like this? This species was way too submissive. They would have been much better off figuring things out for themselves, even if they were blind. The first alien would probably laugh. "It's funny," he would declare, "because they are not us." Thank you.
I am privileged. I always enjoy this part of the evening
Because it's where I get to introduce someone, and I like doing that, heaping praise upon them without mercy.
He's back.
He's back. Now, he was here, the last time he was here was about a year ago. It was about a year ago. It was in October, I think. And he featured back then, and then before that, he managed to find his way here, and we invited him back, and so he is no longer a stranger. He is one of us, which is strange. All right, so the little introduction that he handed me, I'm going to read that and cut to the proverbial chase, as they were. Not Chevy. All right. So Brian Doherty was born in Glasgow, Scotland, and lived in North London for 40 years before moving to the Sussex coast in England in October 2015. There he is a part of a growing community of writers, artists, and musicians, and his nom de culture, I guess you would say, is the Beach Bard of St. Leonard's. We are honored to have you here this evening. He has published 6 books, and tonight he will read from his most recent book, Only in St. Leonard's, A Year on the Marina, as well as some of his more recent works. So give Brian a round of applause as he comes up here, and he's our feature of the evening. Brian, come on up and I'll adjust this for you.
See if that's right. Oh yeah, okay. Just get very, very close.
Of course.
And then you are now in sync.
I'm glad to hear it. Well, thank you, Dan. It's good to be back in San Francisco again.
We gotta get a little louder.
Okay, I can do loud quite easily, thank you.
Well, you can turn it up too.
Really? Okay. It's Right, anyway, as I was saying, good to be back in San Francisco again. I think the last time I was here, I'd had one cataract done, but not the other, so
Oh,
that
that's
made,
right.
yeah, that certainly made crossing the street interesting.
Yeah.
Right, I'm going to start with a piece called Greetings from Torbay. The first thing I notice here is seaweed, that familiar tang from childhood holidays, and I want laver to puree into laver bread to spice up my doctor's 5-a-day challenge. I'd like to find the dulse and sea parsley shown in edible seaweeds of the world, or some tansy or samphire from the cliffs above the bay I am too cautious to climb. I'll take a bag of wheat home for Maria, a token of esteem, but not books or jewellery, her cue to smile and say, "You're bonkers." I hope she'll gift me bounty from her garden. I want my 5-a-day from Maria's garden. Her courgettes were gorgeous. I want more. I want her potatoes, tomatoes, kale, carrots, her sweet peas. I want whatever Maria offers up. But if she chooses to give her good things to her Brighton girlfriends or someone new, the mermaids will whisper, "Big boys don't cry," and remind me she might walk a different path. Will Maria admit my seaweed to her kitchen, fry it, steam it, make it a side dish if she can't trust it, post the results on Facebook, slap me if it ruins her pan, or feed it to the badgers? Okay, I can see there's one or two people here old enough to remember the 60s. Wrote this one after seeing Claes Oldenburg's piece, Soft Typewriter. So this is called Soft. Hello, I am the soft machine. If you think you are the soft machine, sign up for Dr. Benway's seminar, Surgery as Performance Art. Maybe you prefer a visit from Mr. Bradley, Mr. Martin. Don't worry, Bill Burroughs is not writing this routine. Is it too late to wise up the marks? Let's all sing America the Ugly, Trump for president. Be careless what you wish for. Vote Hillary or vote Bernie, see what happens. Oh, it just happened and you didn't notice? Changing of the guard or changing of the gears. The world moves on. The 60s were your lifetime ago, and every device you imagine makes you free is reporting on you, on you, on you. Enjoy your music, your films, your art. While it's still around, you are obsolete. There is no plan you will ever live to see, but it was a great trip with some fine scenery. Why do you think TV is full of disaster and aliens? That's the world you, your friends, and your enemies created. Old Bill was right. We are a virus, an invasive species. Goodbye. Okay, we'll move on to some. Let's see. Let's do the commercial part. This book here, if I hold it up the right way, is it's a signed, numbered, limited edition as a fundraiser for a hospice where I live. Usual price is 10 bills. So anyone who's got a proper job, it's $10. Those of you who are low-waged, unwaged, or sneaky, it's $5. Please don't let me take them home. This next one is a responsive painting by Hans Tisdall called Fisherman's Hut. Exchange. They call me the Birdman of Hastings, but I never set out to collect them or offer them a home. After the first few, I built them little houses from driftwood. So they come, keep me company, and I am glad. I spend my life taking fish from the element and never regret it because that is my mission. But seagulls are not welcome here. They are louder and greedier than the excitement and will rip open every bag just to see what is there and never stop. My birds ask nothing of me, take nothing from me, give me peace in return. The sort of exchange I like. They bless my boat, never follow me out to sea. They could, if they chose, live in a garden in town or try their luck with any other fisherman, but no, here they are, all around my little hut, here to stay. Yet how short our lives between tide and moons, so many friends I can never name aloud again, empty chairs in the pub, obituaries I can never read. If one day I am lost at sea or fall asleep in my chair, I hope my birds will stay here and be welcomed by whoever takes my boat, my hut and my chair. Yes, right. This must be a couple of years ago now. I was in a bookstore in London, and a pile of books. I think it was a Second World War drama called Everyone Brave is Forgiven. And I looked at that, I thought, oh really? So this is my response. Is everyone brave forgiven? If true, what a noble world that must be. A heaven or parallel universe to aspire to, a land of peace and plenty. But can fascists be brave? And if they are, who forgives them? Not me. I believe in karma. Maybe not instant, not anything will be around to see, cheer or moan. But if there is a world where fascists have a better life, I do not want to live there or be greeted by cosmic laughter or a cold uniformed gatekeeper saying, "You don't belong here," as if they had some right to say this. If there are no crimes in a righteous struggle where by any means necessary is the mantra, how do warriors become ordinary civilians, or are they justified forever and untouchable? If that exonerates Jesse James after the Civil War, the mafia post-Italian unification, or Gulf War vet outlaw bikers, good luck when they knock on your door, take what they want and ruin your life. Do you want to live with a gun by your bed, in your kitchen, by your sofa? To teach your children freedom means keep your gun close and your enemies... Sorry, I'm not doing well. Let's try that stanza again. Do you want to live with a gun by your bed, in your kitchen, by your sofa? To teach your children freedom means keep your gun close and your family closer in the home of the brave.
Whoa.
Back in the early 80s, maybe, there was a young photographer in New York called Francesca Woodman, and sadly, most of the 10,000 photographs she took have never been seen, but this is my response to a self-portrait she made called On Being an Angel. This instant, we are all angels, some of this world, some not. How you see me is not who I am, is never who I am, can never be who I am. Do you think I live through my photographs, that I live only in my art? How foolish, how undeserving of my attention. I'm not like the girls you see in the Chelsea Hotel or meet in CBGB's or Studio 54. I prefer Italy, where even mama's boys know how to behave, know what is expected of them. I'm not Italian. Like Mr. Fabulous in the Blues Brothers, looks Italian, acts Italian, but it's Jewish. So even if I was a guy, I could never be a wise guy, never be a made man. Hey, you're doing that flycatcher pose again. Would you believe me if I said my favourite record was Connie Francis Sings Jewish Favourites? It doesn't matter. None of it matters. I have already taken 10,000 photos, more than anyone will ever see. There is only now, this instant, trapped in the shutter, and however precise, never quite what I intended. So, I am not your angel, not anyone's anything. I'm artist, not actor. Now please, get out of my lights. Okay, move on slightly, because just over 2 years ago I started writing a sequence of memorial poems for my wife who died unexpectedly. Oh, it's not far off 4 years ago. So yeah, those poems will be published probably next year, but opening poem in the sequence is called Blue to the Edge. To be free, we left our old lives behind, but we never reached the end of our road, even when we reached our shining sea. So many things we never found time for, never got to see the Taj Mahal or Kyoto, or experience the perfect peace of Iona. Now I have nothing left to lose but walk on. Someone asked, how did you manage 33 years? True love, friend, you should try it sometime. Now I have new friends you never got to meet. I've been to places we never saw together and listened to music you never got to hear. You who loved William Morris's work never set foot in St Mary Magdalene Church, beatified by Morris and Company's stained glass. And you never met the mermaids under the new moon, crooning changes now, who let me walk their beach as meditation. Soon I will visit San Francisco again. I'd like to say you will be there with me in spirit, but I know you are truly gone. But I will go anyway and return to Texas next year and tell everyone I meet about you, then read them the poems you never saw. My life will go on. I will always think of you, especially when rain batters our windows, knowing at last that you are truly free. Oh yeah, and right, another one from the sequence is called Mirror. We brought one with us from London, then discovered we didn't need it here, so it sits in the hallway, making no one look good or bad, better or worse than they really are. No surprises there. We needed no mirrors in our front room except the TV, our two-way theatrical mirror. None in the kitchen, but had 3 in the bedroom. 1 wardrobe, full length, 1 chest of drawers, 1 above the fireplace. And in the bathroom, 1 large circular mirror, big enough for a whole household, and 1 double-sided above the sink that you covered over at once without explanation, and that stays shrouded and unreflective. Where is the vanity mirror you inherited from your mother? Maybe sitting in the chest of drawers or on the mantelpiece. I will not look, and if I find it, will not touch or open it, one of the treasures you left behind. There is only 1 mirror I need. If I look there, you are always lit, never dark, more real than the photos I show to friends. Sandy Cove, August 1998, San Francisco 2004. Happy days I carry with me always. And here's one actually set for 5 minutes.
Left.
Okay, right. Right. In that case, I'm going to skip a couple. But yes, another one from the sequence called Perfect. I remember the first time I heard Christine Perfect sing I'd Rather Go Blind late one night over the radio. I might have been 16, not old enough to really understand, but her tone of voice was perfect, helping me along the way to realise what might be involved in loving someone and knowing things might be about to go wrong. That song and so many others I heard from Mike Raven on Radio Luxembourg, then Muddy Waters and Howling Wolf on Marble Arch Records, The Stones, Cream, Hendrix, all merged into the soundtrack of my adolescence, and yes, braided into my neural network for 50 years of knowing these blues. And now, I'm just back from San Francisco, where I heard Bill Withers' Ain't No Sunshine live and had to walk out the bar or risk a public meltdown. Then 2 nights later in the saloon in North Beach, the house band ripping through some classic blues. I was the only one alone, not dancing, thinking, wouldn't this night be just perfect if you were here? Okay, and okay, we will skip that one. Get one more, 2 more?
You got 4 minutes still.
Okay, in that case, 2 more to finish. These are fairly recent. Right, this one is a response to a painting by Graham Crowley called Yellow Rockery, which dates from 2003, West of Ireland Light. Today, everything is golden, even the roof and all the window frames of this house. How this happened, no one knows, and since it is not even noon, cannot say how the rest of the day will turn out. As for tomorrow, even thinking that far ahead would be asking for trouble. So today, everyone will close the shutters and stay at home. Perhaps not even go to the pub and discuss this 3-beer problem. If anyone is praying for guidance, they will keep that to themselves. It could be a sign, a warning, or the aftermath of some event they do not yet know about. Or maybe 2 people have fallen in love, and this is the gold of their hearts overflowing. And because everything is right in their world, everyone around can share their good fortune. Okay, to finish, this is one written earlier this year at the Austin International Poetry Festival, which is why I'm wearing the t-shirts. And it's a really good workshop, all on the theme of bridges. And so this is called Monkey Bridge. You will find them in most parts of the world, what we in El Norte call the Third World, Latin America, India, Nepal, any space too small for Western engineering, but just the right size for local ingenuity. And perhaps we are all monkeys in the eyes of whatever God or no God you might believe in, and you will need faith, luck, and local knowledge to cross the bridge and stroll on. If you have to cross this bridge to reach something or someone, do not hesitate, or someone else might eat your lunch or steal your luck or meet the person who could have been the love of your life. There is always a bridge, swaying gently or creaking loudly, and sometimes the bridge might not be ready for you to cross it, and you could meet the other cliff face first or plunge down into the torrent below. But only you can know if you are ready, or how fast you can dance across these planks, but if your steps are light and your heart is true, maybe the bridge will allow you to be lucky one more time. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank O'Herney. All right. Thank you so much. Give me another round
Just for the heck of it, you know, those guys did great stuff. Appreciate it. We're going to take a brief break, and there are some spots on the open mic, so if you came in recently and didn't sign in, now's the time to do that. 5 minutes or 7-ish, we'll be back. Thank you so much, and enjoy them if you have them.
What was that guy saying? Sometimes I do. What do you do? Like I'm not sometimes I don't. What do you do?
You always feel like that.
We're gonna run away.
Your ankles are ankles.
The sun is coming directly from the side of the window.
Danielle will hear about this.
I really enjoyed your
I do. 80s, 90s. You know, if I get something right, there's a momentous occasion recording.
You know, I can't remember how much I forgot.
What? Who are you? I mean,
You know, you have those dark figures against.
I can't remember how much I forgot.
That's my favorite one. Who are you? I can hardly remember it sometimes.
What'd you say?
I don't know.
Who am I talking to? Nice hat.
I called myself.
Nice hat.
Thanks. I got a good swell of will.
You got a good smell out of it?
Guess what? I just signed my
I thought since you were here, I thought you would want to.
Ring.
No, that's right.
From there,
I was writing it right before you were very honest.
Steady.
Oh, how sweet.
Well, they're all like
All the way here.
So I have to ask you something. As a person, the person who lives in Boris Johnson, what's his name? Boris Johnson is currently Prime Minister. Currently Prime Minister.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, people underestimate the guy. They think he's a clown. There's a bit more to it than that. And the thing is, he's a front man for a lot of very nasty people. And at the moment, it does look as if we are going to leave the European Union without a deal. And somehow Boris and Trump's are pretending in public that they can do a deal, that they can do free trade deals with Trump and whoever else. It's absolutely nonsense. It's going to be a double trade war for years.
I mean, the only thing aspects I was watching was, so, I don't know, have you ever seen a lecture from Appalachian? The thing that was interesting to me was, most of London and its vicinity were Scotland.
And you're not gonna stay. Someone else gets your cat.
But since they're not
out here,
it's just like the parts of England wanted to stay. I think Wales was
out down.
The thing is, it's really enormously regions and regions. And what places do not think go to the new. And the thing is, a lot of those areas are places where the jobs are never coming back. And I don't know what those people were playing at. The thing is, some people basically want to turn the clock turned back big time, and it's not going to happen.
And even if it, the thing about that is, the people were troubled. The jobs are not ever going to come back. He goes and makes a big speech with their he used to raise clean coal.
It's nonsense. We get a settlement of that as well. But the thing is, it is basically the light of the 60s never happened, amongst other things.
They want to turn it way
to turn it back to the 1850s or the 1750s.
And that would be one thing. You have to remember, there was an empire at those times.
And the thing is,
and that's where resources came in and all that. They don't know.
No, and it's been going for a very long time. I think a lot of people as well never accepted the fact that in 1972 we went decimal currency and later on went decimal measurements. A lot of people still hate that. It's like, why? There's so many things you just wrong. But the thing is, when the Tories, or David Cameron, who was Prime Minister, when he set up the referendum, he made one very simple error, because in Britain we hardly ever have referendums. Some countries in Europe have them quite often, and they always specify that for the thing to be valid it has to be a 2/3 majority. If Cameron had written that into the referendum, we wouldn't be having any of this nonsense, because the majority was less than 1 million. So
it was a tight. Polling was very tight.
Exactly. And so for the people who want to leave, say, 17 million voted, 16 million didn't. But that's another thing. In some countries, the referendums are compulsory. You have to vote.
And you can quote me. So, Mr. Sandrell, I believe you're the individual in question.
Hold on, I just lost something.
He lost something. I hope it's not his mind, because there's one over here on the floor crawling along. Like, spraying its ganglion all over the place. Looks like a giant's. There was somebody read something, and I had a comment about it. Oh, here he comes. I don't have to blabbercate anymore. Oh, wait, he's paused. He's coming. He's going. He's up. He's down.
Sorry. Just so sorry.
Zardoz. Anybody remember that movie?
Remember Zardoz?
I think
It's an old science fiction thing. Very bad science fiction thing.
Sean Connery was in it, so it probably wasn't
Yes.
much good.
Moon over Hawaii. Perry Como, he's in slow-mo. He's a JoJo, that's my man.
I can do that, but then people don't want to hear me.
Well, that's okay.
Make sure that's right for you. Give him a round of applause, Mr. Sanders, kicking out second half.
Thank you for waiting, and as I always like to say, just because you steal something doesn't mean you own it.
Darn it!
You still live in Indian country, and this is a lonely land. And by the way, if anybody has a gumption to get up and support the natives, all you gotta do is put in the Ohlone people and give them a call. And when you do, and you go, do me a favor and listen. Let them speak. Anyway, here's the piece, Green. Mother's ill because you believe in the lie you're green. Your greenest will still kill ourselves, making the planet ill. Green, don't think so. Green, a state in your mind, not a state of mind. No, it's a state of body, and the mind will follow. Everyone becomes a star, born, then burns out. What's important is what you do in between in your starship. You're the star of your own photo booth selfies, never us. Building green cars isn't green. Your electricity comes from petroleum, oil, batteries. Green? Someone get a healer, collapsing from hysterical laughter. We're so green today, we're floating islands of plastic ready to build cities on as riding waters take over lands. But all this destruction, silly behavior will end soon. Not happy about it. Warned many years about today, over and over again. Don't tell populists they still believe there is a future. Don't panic. It's like can't keep losing virginity when we've never been virginal.
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Oh, you're gonna sing? Oh, don't do it, Dan.
Never.
All right. Criers, poets, hip-hop artists, fools, jesters, truth-tellers. Everything is up for grabs soon. The center does not hold. London Bridge falls down. Maybe the above should set policies subject to consensus, of course. Everyone stands naked, making sure no one has weapons. Didn't listen when above forewarned and told you what will happen when nothing happens all at once. Poets, jesters, criers, hip-hop writers, let the Sufi singer lay praise, joy. Sufi spins, mother spins, as those who lived to tell the stories of terrors, night raiders, cavalry, police, where shovels remove mountains, flattening, destroying, mothers angling of things where life begins. They used to call this kind of action progress. For those who first heard this word, how do you feel about progress now after making all that money? Again, not all bought the lie, but the lie won. There are those who are finding their voices, but it still might take more voices as fears rise where it may be already too late. No one's telling you, someone might panic
And you wonder why indigenous keepers of the mother are in exodus, and weep.
Thank you.
After Buford is Robert Rubino.
Robert Rubino after Buford. We got Buford coming up here. Let me get this box up for him.
Okay, Buford.
I have this little book that gives you prompts, so I'm going to read the prompts and then read what I wrote. The first prompt is, write about your earliest childhood memory of your mother. I was small enough to be taken into the women's powder room. There was a curtain of some kind, blinds really, and it was on the second floor, and I looked down through the blinds to the first floor. She wouldn't have left me, so I don't know how she went to the bathroom. Carefully, right? This other prompt is, write about your earliest childhood memory of your father. Boy, this is a Freudian book, huh? Anyway, this is it. He and I would get up in the early morning before he went to work, and he would make me eggs and hot tea. He called me the Englishman because of this. He would say, I only make eggs over easy if I asked him for scrambled eggs. My grandmother and his mother-in-law would get up later before he had gone to work and made a second breakfast for me. This helped endear me to both of them. And this is related. Well, this book is really interesting. It has like categories of like what was your life like at 1 to 5-year-olds, and so I'm gonna read that because it's related to the other thing, I think. I didn't go to kindergarten and was, quote, taught by my grandmother, who basically fed me and encouraged my imagination in creative play, such as pretending to be the fictional lawyer Perry Mason. And so I would dress up in this, I put on the tie and everything, at 5 years old. That's probably why I don't like wearing a tie now. But anyway, how much time do I have left? Because I got a little more here. You got a couple of minutes. Okay. Is that yours? Is that yours?
Yeah, this is mine, right?
Oh, I didn't.
Oh, well, yeah. I got it
from a book.
I bought it at Booksmith,
Oh.
and then I've been filling it out because I think it has so many great prompts.
Sorry, I totally misunderstood.
Okay. So at 6 to 10 years old, I went to school for the first time in the 1st through 4th grades. Became interested in sports and writing stories. Went to a lot of minor league hometown games with my grandfather, baseball. That's why I'm still crazy about baseball. At 11 to 15 years old, I became more interested in sports. Joined recreational department on school playgrounds, especially Mertz Elementary School, where I attended games in the 2nd through 6th grade and the 6th through 9th grade at a place called May Eames Junior High School. That was the actual name. And then joined a baseball team on the playground at the elementary school. Then, this is my glory years. I pitched for Constantine's Ramada baseball team and began going to college at the University of South Alabama, staying home while
I attended classes there. I worked with my brother and father in a fishing tackle shop. Oh, and my younger brother too. He didn't like doing it much, so he was kind of the, he was a big jock, so he was favored and he didn't have to work there too much. But I received a bachelor's degree after that and moved to Atlanta, Georgia, which was really, really a great thing because I got out of that 100-degree heat with 100% humidity. It wasn't quite that hot, but it was almost that bad. Anyway, I like this autobiographical stuff. Thanks. All
right, thank you.
After Robert is MOS.
Mo?
Okay.
All right.
Always a pleasure to be here. Name of this is Screw You, Pollyanna.
Yeah.
No worries. It's all good. It is what it is. Stop pulverizing me with those platitudes, bombarding me with that bumper sticker bunk. Stop talking to me like I'm 12 again and you're the second coming of Alfred E. Newman. Funny in 1960, not so funny in 2020. Stop talking to me like you're Pollyanna, like I'm Lenny from Of Mice and Men. Yes, worries, it's not all good. And it is what it is? Newsflash, that ain't profound. It's pitiful, pathetic, passive, prosaic. No worries, it's all good? It is what it is? What are you? Who are you? Lobotomized? Zombitized like one of Kesey's cuckoo nesters? What about poisoning the planet, poverty and injustice, hunger and disease, including hunger for power and gun lovers' disease? What about so-called democracies where every vote ain't counted, every vote doesn't count? Yes, of course, there's beauty and joy in the world, in communities, in your life, your soul. Of course, there's love and kindness, and sometimes, occasionally, even justice. And gratitude for such gifts, vital and life-affirming, nurturing and nourishing. But dignity demands you don't be so quick to stick your head in the quicksand of your smart-ass phone, your dumb-ass sports channel, your Netflix binging, your NIMBY neighborhoods, your drugs of choice. Dignity demands you don't go fuzzy-wuzzy, willy-nilly, willingly pulling proverbial wool or rose-colored glasses over your nearsighted eyes. Dignity demands you not be a reality denier, demands vision far-sighted, demands you recognize, admit, confront hate and greed in the world, in your community, in your own life, in your own heart. It is what it is now, no shit, but it doesn't have to be that way tomorrow or next week, next month, next election, next generation after that. Some worries at least, yes? It ain't all good. It ain't all good.
MOS and then AJ, isn't it? Is AJ after her?
AJ.
Good evening, I'm MOS. You're probably wondering what that means. It could mean mostly old shit, military operations specialist, when someone said. I'll let you know, if you want to know what MOS, ask me.
What's MOS?
Ask me later.
Oh.
The first salute can be traced back to a group of Oakland community organizers. The powers that be did not care for the locals who called the group the Black Panthers. One man in particular, Bobby Seale, called for Black Power. Seale was the man of the hour. The Oakland police did not care for his energizing voice. Things began to sour. His rallying cry for social justice ran throughout the projects. He had no regrets. He was there for his black brothers and sisters. He died in a hail of police gunfire. Another dream is killed but not forgotten. We don't raise our hand for pledge allegiance. We raise our fists instead. We get high and dream of better days. We get high and dream of better days. The hippies arrived to catch the vibes. Churchill's V for victory transformed the peace sign. Only a San Francisco digger could get that. Dig, can you dig it? Protests and protest signs spread like wildfire. Burning flags in San Francisco burned with free love desires. The airplane called Jefferson, and the dead was grateful. Everybody was grateful. Brothers were Chambers, and Janice was Joplin. The Beatles dropped in, then dripped out. The air was filled with weed, and the peace dove and flew to Paris in '68. Even James Manson checked out in the summer of love.
All right. AJ?
Good.
And then who's after AJ?
AJ is Vincent.
Vincent, you're after AJ.
Well, that was actually a poem. Happy birthday to all Libras this month. I want to just, what was the thing? Anarchy with passive nature? Is that what it was? Okay. With the magic wand theory on the 5th and Howard Street fence. 101. So, if you can run your gamut, I'd like to express myself tonight. Trying to solve 4x. Figure that out. I don't know why, but we'll see. Anything can happen, I would say. With the 4 C's to the 3 to me, as a sample of the iota. Because I'm talking a little bit about giraffes also tonight. We're going to have a lot of talk about the Rippy T-Rat, Rippy Johnny T-Rat, Rippy Rat. See, you can hear, listen to me a little bit. However, I would like to say, the board, just another low line from the streets trying to come up in this time of need. No bitches getting for a time of day for 9 stops. But the first rhythm seemed to work out pretty all right in the middle of the scene. But the timing was on, so low shot on. Or to be put in your name here now. Still soft correct. See, 1, 2, 12 for the crowd. On for the pussy bear, manipulate though. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's in the pot. That's a little sample for you on the 4 C, cause I gotta get to the But basically, it's about the iota bitch, right? So what can I say? But sorry, give me a little bit of time. I don't know. What's that mean? Time, space, lack of. You're not supposed to think about that when you're streaming consciously doing what you gotta do, yeah? Right? Catch that. Get back to me. Think about that, see? I don't know why you fucking try to do that. Some days, I really don't care, but even if your motherfucking president say, I'll move from America. I love this state. Love this state of affairs. Status quo doesn't seem dope. Think about that. Reevaluate, please. Fuck you. I'm a giraffe, motherfucker. Keep standing up. I ain't need from a tree. Getting down. Nothing. 5 steps. 4 steps. Now I can walk to one side. I don't know, just check what the theme says. Passively. Anarchy and nothing but such chaos, right? That's why I like to say passively. Cause I ain't about all soft taking strikes. God works it out, doesn't he? Get out of the best, right? What else, man? It's full range. Is it? How far does it go? I don't know, see? I'm still trying to solve the range. I ain't know. Missing a lot here. But we're gonna have a good. I got a new website out. You can check that out. It's called Metaphysical Rain IXI. That's the actual website if you want to actually ponder anything. I just said go ahead and do it right there. We'll work on the giraffe shit too because shit's fucked up. They look out. We need to look out for them. Fucking rip the G on every side. See. Anyways, just waiting. You know, golly gee, Miss Molly McGee, just waiting. The art car slipping, whole dripping, not so fast now, super slow pace, but remember that hole that you tripped in. You don't know. You got that with your heart, right? Back when the block was rock, rockin' beats, rap, Sydney. It's a progressive holiday. I hope you can follow me on that because it's important. It's fun. We're gonna dress up like giraffes. We're gonna wear them on our heads. We're gonna dress up dogs up. We're gonna dress up pigs up. We're gonna dress everything up. I used to have it when I my brothers-in-law, like they have pet pigs. I'm not from a farm, but I'm from a farm area, surrounded by a farm area, right? Right? Because it's like I don't know, it's burning. But what am I to say? Hey, there you go. I'm on this few things. Giraffe, breakfast for man, ISI. Thank you. Have a good day. Giraffe, breakfast for theory. Conspiracy.
Vincent? Our very evening is Vincent C. And then Hal? Right out loud. All right.
Yeah, thank you
Vincent,
so
your
much.
frame in there.
Yeah, frame me.
Frame me.
Sorry, Jacob, I didn't go with your theme.
Dag nabbit.
I don't identify. So as you guys know, once in a while I'll read you some fiction. Thank you. I'll read you some fiction, and this is a piece that I've been working on that I just submitted for publication. So give it luck. And this is fiction. This is called The Clipboard, and Dan the Brady gave me extra time because it's going to go a little over the 8 minutes. This is called The Clipboard. God, I can barely read. My glasses. Okay. Scott is naked. He is stretched out in the hospital bed on the 5th floor of San Francisco General Hospital. A small blanket covers his body from the waist down. He can't get comfortable. Every time he attempts to lie on his side, the muscle-bound and very serious young man in the navy blue scrubs quickly repositions him on his back. This wasn't how he planned this day. He had arrived via ambulance just after midnight. Once the stretcher passed the threshold of the ER, Scott was under the microscope. He was besieged with attention. His shoulder was aching. There were contusions on his right shin and just above his left eye. A peripheral IV line was fashioned on his left hand, and a PICC line was inserted in his right arm. What had they found? He was in the dark. Everyone he attempted to speak to seemed to cock their heads left to right like an old-time cuckoo clock with a half smile. They'd pat his hand and disappear like a mirage. On rinse and repeat, he kept hearing, "Try and get some sleep," and "The doctor will be in soon." He was a mime, but in reverse. Pity took hold. His body was tight and constricted. Everyone kept picking up a clipboard, fastened to the side of his bed, and jotting down a few sentences. He really wanted to be home in his plush queen-size bed, but his requests to be released were shrugged off. Scott began to feel tired and began to doze. See, Scott was a success. He had plenty of money in the bank. Not a fat cat, but enough to cuddle up like a calico in the afternoon sun. He never fretted about the future with a retirement and deferred comp package on steroids. Without a moment's notice, he could pick up the phone, and with wheels up, he'd be wheels down in Hawaii or Brazil hours later. Walking into a room, he was treated magna cum laude by friends, family, and neighbors. He was Julie, the cruise director, planning the most elaborate galas or a quiet weekend soiree in Big Sur. Physically, he was forced to duck underneath some doorways. His olive skin was brushed with light mocha finish, having striations in every direction. Lovingly, Scott was Michael Jackson to everyone's Paul McCartney. Men vied for his attention as if he was a celebrity walking a press line. Scott was loved with an occasional frenemy, but always greeted with a daisy, not a bayonet. Yet Scott dabbled in deception. His brushstrokes were short, either beige, gray, or black. No white to be found. He He muted his colors with omission. His expansive canvas was draped in missed opportunities. He never told anyone what was really going on. He regularly stated, "Oh, I'm fine," when asked, "How are you?" Or, "Everything is just great." And sometimes with a chuckle, "No complaints here, no one ever listens anyways." Scott's responses were like a cop clearing a crime scene. Nothing to see here. It was obvious. Scott most feared judgment or the perception he was weak. Scott didn't want to discuss his condition. He didn't want to share about his year-long struggle. He had long since abandoned his mantra, "Honest in all your affairs," and the cracks in his aging infrastructure were beginning to show. Not surprisingly, he had found himself being loaded into a set of double doors below a Code 3 siren, flashing red and squelching in every direction. And as it sped away through the tree-lined streets, he was speechless. Through the back of the speeding ambulance, the images became apparitions, appearing, disappearing, like dew on a windshield exposed to defrost. First Morning Dew Cafe, gone. Then Dolores Street law offices, gone. Next Tartine Bakery, gone. His feelings were a fallen boulder upon his chest. Scott was physically exhausted, mentally fatigued, and spiritually bankrupt. And then the paramedics with their questions. When was the last time you had anything to eat? Are you on any medications? Do you remember how you hurt yourself? Each one damning him to the next. He opened his mouth, but only a few words would dribble out. His thoughts trailing off into the abyss. His neurotransmitters were on life support, and his circuit board was fried. As Scott opened his eyes, he focused on the starkness of his room. As he glances around, he's taken back by the off-white polyvinyl wallpaper showering all four walls. He looks up. There's a silver-gray colored serpentine pattern, which his bed curtain follows. He spots a dry eraser board across the room. In large black letters, he sees Room 504. Below it says Saturday, September 15th, 2013. That couldn't be right. Somebody made a mistake. It was only Thursday. He shrugged it off. He eyed two lithographs on each side of the flat screen TV mounted on the wall. The left one read, 100th Annual Nantucket Art and Wine Festival. He makes out a muted lawn chair and a beach blanket flanking it. He thinks, very David Hockney. As he attempts to focus and read the other piece, a small woman in a white coat enters. "Hello, Scott. I'm Dr. Wable," she says. She has pixie-length red hair. She's boyish and elf-like. Scott thinks, oh my God, my doctor is Frodo. He laughs out loud. She has a Cheshire grin. Her pin is adorned with simulated red, green, pink, and gold rhinestones. There's a small lavender and pink ribbon jutting out from the top of it. It's cheap, but pretty. She picks up the clipboard and stiffens slightly. She begins asking questions. First, how are you? Easy, he thinks. I'm fine. Silence except for the short movements of her bejeweled ballpoint pen. Next, do you know how you arrived here at the hospital? Another easy one. Ambulance. More writing. Do you know how long you've been here? He thinks for a moment. 6 hours. No, wait, 8 hours tops. Scott is pleased with his answer. She pauses. Her pen then advances, but there's a procession of sentences. Scott attempts to sit up. Wait, what? Dr. Weba looks directly into his eyes. He's uncomfortable. He can feel a burning sensation between his butt crack. For the first time, he smells his own shit. She tells Scott he's been here for the last 2 days, and they need to run more tests, possibly an MRI. He would need to stay at least another 24 hours. Dr. Wable returned the clipboard and exited the room. That damn clipboard, what had they discovered? His rational mind had run marathon. He was running on empty. Scott drifted again and awoke, but he wasn't alone. A language unfamiliar to him was being spoken. Their inflections were foreign. There were a few hands upon his body. At first, too, but last count 4, small beads of water trickled down the back of his legs. He was on his side. Elation to be off his back. Scott is being held up on his side with 2 hands, and the other set is applying soft, repetitive motion with a warm washcloth around his ass. Please, oh please, keep scrubbing. The pungent smell of lavender and tea tree filled his nostrils. Scott catches his attributor's eyes. He's short. He's light brown with jet black hair. His name badge reads, Note. Like music to his ears, he's smiling as he dips the washcloth into the pink-colored wash basin. He slowly wrings it out. Scott can hear the runoff trickle back into the basin. He's beautiful. He's an angel. Note applies pressure and moisture to Scott's crotch. The water droplets move gently through his pubic hair. It tickles only briefly. With small dabbing motions, Note is meticulous. He surprisingly begins washing the shaft of Scott's endowment. Scott's nipples harden. Scott tenses up at the sensation. Note continues. Scott's testicles constrict. His penis is engorged. His brain begins to hum. Note pays no attention to Scott's recent developments. Note finishes, and as Scott is slowly lowered onto his back, he sees Note standing clipboard in hand. He's scribbling down a few lines. Scott didn't mean to get hard. Why would he write that down? Scott is distracted as Note's accomplice repositions Scott's cock and covers him with a new unsoiled blanket. Note returns the clipboard and smiles briefly. Selfishly, Scott wants a hug or a little peck. He dismisses the thought. Not good for the clipboard. As Note turns to leave, Scott attempts to throw him a kiss, but he is unable to touch his fingers to his mouth. Maybe next time. After a few minutes, Scott realized he had more questions than answer. He began to ponder when they scheduled the MRI. Clipboard. When was he going to eat? Clipboard. Was his family notified? What about the emergency contact? What about work? Had HR been notified? Clipboard, clipboard, clipboard. His world had shrunk. His life had been reduced to the opinions of people who really didn't know or understand him, and those opinions randomly scribbled on a 69-cent clipboard. Scott's train of thought was interrupted with the familiar cadence of Tagalog. San Francisco and Tagalog were like burger and fries. He was reassured with a tinge of warmth. A Filipino woman dressed in pastel-flowered scrubs enters. She has a round face with a small smile. She is mildly jovial. She's unearthly, a cherub. She attempts small talk while briefly checking his vitals and repositioning his IV lines. She reaches underneath the blanket and with a light touch, checks his pulse. She reaches for the clipboard, a quick notation. She reaches behind him and he hears Velcro separating. She states she'll need the bigger cuff. She sets the clipboard on the bed. It begins to slip off. As Scott reaches for it, he manages to displace half of his blanket as he catches it with a few fingers. He's elated. He grabbed it just in time. The afternoon sun pierces the room, and for the first time, he can see the soft, white Velcro bands around his wrists and ankles fastened to the sides of the hospital bed. He can no longer hear any sounds. He is still and silent. His breathing feels shallow. He glances around, and his gaze focuses upon the clipboard. It's slightly askew. He can make out the hospital logo. He begins to read, but his eyes fail him. He shuts his eyes tightly. It's worked before. He must focus before it's removed. His eyes open wide, and for the first time he can see it. It's as clear as the rays of light through the 5th floor window. There it is. It was there all along. Extreme narcotic intoxication. Scott might be sick, but his condition was no longer a secret. They all knew him well. Therefore, the clipboard knew him well. The epiphany exploded in his head. The torment of the benzodiazepines was defined. The amber bottle's hold on him had been determined. He had been rescued. His days were no longer numbered. They had been replaced with 5150. He began to wail. It was over.
And then Pablo Pablo after Hal.
Well, let's see if this works. In my career as a cartoonist, I often drew comic book sequences that were held together by a poem, which is a good way to keep everything linked together. And pursuant to tonight's theme, from an old issue of Anarchy Comics, which is kept in this anthology, as Britt said, classical anarchy is not violent or militant. This is called Anarchy Equals Panarchy, according to the old anarchist professor. I get a lot of mail from you out there who ask of me, Professor, will you set me straight? Just what is anarchy? To some, it stands for chaos, ancient, formless, primal blight, they say, filled all infinity, the realm of elder night. An A within a circle, now a fashionable brand which young folks write on walls and, let us hope, they understand. It's many things to many folks, so let's look at the word. We'll see if we can clarify what rumors we have heard. In anarchy, an means without. Arch means authority, as in archbishop, archangel, archfiend, and anarchy. The anarchists believe then to be governed is a sin. Rule from above they do not love. Rule must come from within. No bureaucrats, no plutocrats, no warring nation state, no armaments of death to cleave the lowly from the great. No taxes, jails, or prison camps, no spies or spooks can be in that brave world where flies the ebon flag of anarchy. These fat cats now, these plutocrats, I hear them yowl and whine. Such fairy tales ring up no sails. There is no world but mine. It's their ideal which is unreal, for surely it must be the march of human progress is a march toward anarchy. When government shall wither and all boundary lines abate, as every person takes on all the functions of the state. Yes, each and every person in this wonder world I see becomes a sovereign nation. The result is panarchy. I'm my own tax collector. I decide what money's spent. I'm my own boss, my landlord. Yes, I pay myself the rent. I am my own police force, uncorrupt, without a flaw. My president, my parliament, my judge and court of law. The only border I respect is someone else's skin, and my frontier is also dear, defended from within. For, as a wise man said once, and I tell my foes and friends, your right to swing a frying pan ends where my nose begins. Of course, it may take time for these enlightened views to spread, and therefore we must gird our loins for that which lies ahead. The struggle must be carried on, and let all those take care who would abridge my freedom. Despots, tyrants, all beware. So now we see that anarchy, however we extend it, must equal panarchy. But first, we may have to defend it.
Pablo.
Pablo.
And then Jacob.
And then Jacob. And Marcus Garvey.
Those props to all the poets and the beautiful poetry. Thank you. This is another silly love poem that I've been working on. I think I read a draft of it a couple weeks ago. So I wanted to come back and I think it's finished.
All right.
It's a 4-part poem. And let's see. Has a long title and a short title. The short title is The Origin of Matter. And I'll recite the long title, then just get right into it.
From out of the mist of dark nebulae, the origin of matter. 1. Supernova. Scientists say we are made of distant stars, of interstellar atoms and particles, remnants of an ancient galactic starburst, a great supernova explosion from out of the mist of dark nebulae, 10 zillion light years away. Then, all the elements from our periodic table were clustered and jettisoned across the universe like fiery comets. Their trajectories, vectors, deteriorating points of geometric dissension, and final destinations unknown to all except Jehovah God, the Creator. 2. Stardust. The first time ever I saw your face, I do believe there was stardust in your eyes, for I visualized creation's beginning, and I imagined hearing and feeling such joyful shouts of exuberance and praise of all of God's angels applauding in unison at what he had accomplished. I time traveled the expanse and marveled at the stark contrast between creation and destruction, beauty and corruption, chance and destiny, time and space. And I came to understand how soul and spirit are one, united and divided by love and by death. 3. The infinitesimal being. So that is how I witnessed the origin of matter. And from out of the mist of dark nebulae, I discovered what matters to me. I, infinitesimal being, drunk with the great starry void, likeness, image of mystery, I felt myself a pure part of the abyss. I pondered both the grandeur and insignificance of my existence relative to the great rhetorical question posed by the awe-stricken psalmist: what is mortal man that you keep him in mind, and the son of earthly man that you take care of him? And like an accidental tourist, I replied, something and nothing. But my unabridged thought sentence was actually something sublime, as when tender thoughts of you purify my heart, and nothing at all, because that is what I really am, apart from you. 4. The secret person. Still in all, the invisible mystery that will forever fascinate me is the secret person of the heart of you, where the truest beauty of all abides eternally within the starry mist, as I could only imagine from 10 zillion light years away. Thank you.
Jacob and then Marco Hart. I got Jacob San Diego. Welcome back.
Thanks, folks. So I haven't written a poem in like 5 months. I wrote some.
So this is brand new?
Yeah.
All right.
The poet gods have given me some pity. Vegas Parable. For Duke in all his decadence and depravity. Ever since I read Hunter S. Thompson, I've destroyed every hotel room I've ever stayed in. Smoked far too many cigarettes, inflated my liver with copious amounts of whimsical whiskey. I yell in places designated for silence, speak my mind rather than bottle up my truths, and type as if I actually believe what I'm writing. My voice was given a microphone some years back when I was drugged out in a desert, observing corpses and living mannequins as they paraded about the strip amongst paralytic drunks, hopeful hookers, and demons disguised as businessmen. I interviewed strippers, smoked in unattended Lamborghinis, and was kidnapped by a married woman wearing a blue Roaring 20s style dress. Vegas taught me America is a cannibal. She gets hot and bothered whenever capitalism is mentioned. If you aren't making money in this town, you're a fool, twiddling your thumbs until the inevitable closing credits. Naturally, I did the most American thing I could think of. Sat down at the typewriter, looked at the page, and said, this is what I ought to do. Even if I died penniless like Van Gogh, or end up rolling in pounds like J.K. Rowling, at least my soul will be able to look me in the eye and say with a straight face, you are not like the other beast. There is still some heart in you after all. Vegas gave me the fear, and it is without a doubt no place for psychedelic drugs, but I only ended up loathing every crook selling an ideal. This is America after all.
All right, go ahead.
To my greatest one-night stand. We shared your martini. I said something about being the brown bond. Lights reflected in your eyes. Admiration? Intoxication? We fled to an Italian restaurant where you cried while waiting to use the bathroom. I pretended to be Marcello and consoled you with a kiss. But there's nothing sweet about this life, and I was wearing a thrift store sweater, not a suit. Still, you fancied me, and we called a cab to take us to my apartment, or rather the guest bed in a place I happened to sleep. For this is San Francisco, and I am on the poet's salary. You asked if I was a prostitute. I laughed, and you said this was good. Wouldn't want our professions to intertwine. We walk up 4 flights of stairs. I was impressed you could move as quickly as you did in heels. We fell into a routine. Flesh atop of flesh, rest, kisses along mouth and body, music, more flesh atop of flesh. Once when we embraced, you said, I love you for the way you are, no more, no less. You are unique. What a lovely thing to say after an orgasm. Before you left, you asked me if I thought I was a good writer. And I said, I suppose so. Why is that? Because I wrote something, and people have told me once or twice they felt something. Has anyone ever read your work without permission? I'm sure they have. Stuff I've accidentally left behind in hotels, cafes, parks, benches. Wow. To me, that's more powerful. Words not meant for someone, which they stumbled upon, could change their life forever. One small line. Have you ever thought of that? I think they call that the butterfly effect. It never really has crossed my mind, but through sex I have seen the way. I am the muse. Women are not my muse. They unlock what I am too stupid to see. I watch you dress and walk you down. Take care of yourself, you said, before giving me a half-hearted kiss, heels in hand, makeup smeared. An impeccable portrait which will always reside within the gallery of my mind. Do you have time for this quick one?
Yeah, you got about a minute.
Alright. Political junkie. This is because, Donnie wants to build moats and stuff. So, build a moat filled with alligators and snakes. Ensure the wall is electric. Fry all the skin off any hands that dare to touch it. Ensure human life is reduced to ash and bone marrow. A message to those who wish to enter into a land that preaches freedom. America has always been a contradiction. We say she is this and that, but she is still a concept. We must still create her. Evening news, orange glow, sweaty face, true blue suit, whistleblowing, fake news. Let's conjure up a solution, taken from a fairy tale or medieval textbook. There are no more journalists, only playwrights. I drink my coffee and laugh. I see why the earth is imploding. It has had enough of our silly games and wasteful expressionism. The gods no longer find it funny. The punchline is politics, and I've heard this joke before.
Oh! Very good. San Diego. Monica Hards and then our closer. Back here, Mr. Andrell.
Antoinette here?
Huh?
Oh, okay. Is it us already?
No, it's Marco Hards.
It's only Marco Hards. Have no fear, I really am here.
And before that I said, who will be the?
Silencio, he arrogantly requested, because I'm one of the guys who yells out a lot, but not anymore, pretty well behaved the last 5 seconds or so.
Use the microphone, please.
Why? Nothing about Jesus, nothing to do with him. Except everything. Uh-huh. I don't have to do a damn thing. I don't have to use the mic, but since that was a request, I guess I will, because I would want everyone to hear everything I have to say, because it's so important. Because, I mean,
Okay, I'm leaving.
good, please do.
Thank you.
I didn't buy anything. Why stay? It's all about salesmanship. Who needs money in a free country? Only me and my landlady. That's what I say when the chips are down and the tips are low. I better speak into the mic or I'll get in trouble with Sister Flo. Onward through the fog, downward facing frog. Why worry when it will get worse? So I was shadow boxing earlier today. Figured I was ready to beat up fucking A. Fucking A said, no, that ain't the line. It's an old Bob Dylan song. The line is Cassius Clay. Before he stood up for himself, he decided to become Muhammad Ali. But his daddy said, who do you think you be? My last name isn't good enough for you? He said, okay, I'm gonna interrupt this poem with this artwork. A buddy of mine drew Dr. Hal, me, and another luminary. Would you pass this around, please? And now I shall read something from this notebook. So by the time I get my glasses out and you air your asses out, it'll be time for me to get off the stage, so don't worry. Why worry when it will get weirder in this silly city in which we live? This is Charles Kelly. Small, tree on the bank laid flat, out in the mud face down, and answered my call down 20 to 30 feet of steep embankment with, Mark, here's the branch, hold on tight, and then practically pulled me up from the ice cold stream. It cost $80 to take the taxi from Mill Valley to Lester's house, or we took a minibus just over the bridge. I forget which, but it cost $80 in the taxi to wherever we caught it. Lester did all he could for my knee, and you sure did too. Her name is Shadow, not Charles Kelly. To say the very least, what a Wonder Woman you are, my shining, staunchly sweetheart and star. That's it's over now. You can throw fresh vegetables if you would. Want any applause? No, please don't. This note includes my mess. To the sad, somewhat deluded, L-U-D-E-D, denuded, diluted denizens who continue to be polluted and continue unobstructed to pollute this bliss of this mighty mansion and its contraction and expansion. Smoke all stuff outside, please, or smoke less ashtray, fucking A. Let's all kindly consider each other's breathing apparatus. Others' point of view, while we amble, ramble, and scramble from the blue of what each of us sees fit to do. Personally, I see the doorway to the under-the-house storage area with the holes in the foundation wall to be an all-too-tempting welcome mat to rodentia. Rodentia bigger than mice, I certainly draw the line at, although I have no sympathy for Mickey, Mighty, or Minute Mouse. Thank you all, especially Toby, the Wonder Dog. This is about the place I live, in case you were wondering. All welcome out to the rodents and their accompanying insects. That backyard foundation wall has a lot of sunlight coming in and can fairly easily be prepared from outside. But I ain't gonna do it for nothing, so you did it, and because you're married to the house. And now I'll get out my harmonica, and it won't be long now. I'll be gone, and you'll be able to breathe a large sigh of relief regarding your unbelief in grief. Or is it your belief in grief that keeps you going? This is a rhetorical question that you can ponder as you wander through the thunder and wonder where your last clean pair of underwear went. That's cool. I'm not going to play into the microphone because last time I did that, they were pounding on the floor like they were rebuilding my house. I say my house. I live in the basement. I won't get into that. This is called a tin sandwich. It's called a lot of things. How much time do I have? 30 seconds? See, I was bending a note there. Oh. There's a woman that put up with me for many moons. She said, Mark, you're a strong man, but smell ain't everything. See ya, wouldn't want to be you, baby. I said, well, that makes three of me. I wouldn't want to be me or you, but what can I do? I gotta be me. I gotta be me. All right, that's enough out of me. Try not to cry. I miss you all. Please, sweet, bittersweet. Make my hasty retreat. Bye-bye.
Warm hearts. Thank you. Now, the Sandra.
Oh, Antoinette. Oh, Antoinette.
She's here.
We have a convocation.
All right, well, we're going to have to center us. There's going to be three of us.
Okay.
We're going to try something new. We haven't rehearsed it, so this could be a total failure. But that's what art's all about.
Yeah.
Well, are you going to do your care?
I would like to.
Yeah.
And what am I gonna
Do you want? Do you know what? Okay. Accusatory.
Don't worry, Sam.
You gonna hold it?
Do you have a name for it?
Yeah. Do you know what? All right. This is a litany of sorts. First one I've ever done. So here we go. Piece is called "Do You Know What?"
Do you know what?
You leave your sons and daughters.
Do you care?
Do you know what?
Kind of world you're leaving them.
Do you care?
Do you know what?
Kinds of poisons, fillers are in our food.
Do you care?
Do you know what?
Species became extinct today because of Homo sapiens.
Do you care?
Do you know what?
Your empire, #1 drug dealer worldwide.
Do you care?
Do you know what?
Child just died from an overdose on drugs USA approved for moneymakers.
Do you care?
Do you know what?
Happens when Native women, men found dead, drowned, murdered.
Do you care?
Do you know what?
Becomes of two-spirited trans people in USA from harassment to death.
Do you care?
Do you know what?
Happens when Native black women are sterilized without their knowledge.
Do you care?
Do you know what?
Lands falls into oceans, bays, melting permafrost, releasing methane gas, stored away. Half of Canada may disappear.
Do you care?
Do you know what?
Happens when poets, musicians, artists are not heard, seen.
Do you care?
Do you know what?
Happens when people are not heard, supported.
Do you care?
Do you know what?
When lying, sending youth to war, what happens to their very beings?
Do you care?
Do you know what?
These wars USA fights are all started or supported by USA, are called American wars.
Do you care?
Do you know what?
Is said of Homo sapiens spewing dirt, hatred as humans regain love for one another.
Do you care?
Do you care what?
Happens to children in wars by USA or in detention camps where they feel nothing so as not to hurt or weep.
Do you care?
Do you care what?
Before falls, Mother Earth, supporter of our lives.
Do you care?
Do you care what?
Other nations, including those in USA, think we're destroyers of the world.
Do you care?
Do you know what?
USA, you've never been good, let alone great. Just another genocidal, maniacal empire.
Do you care?
Do you know what?
Citizens of USA, it doesn't have to be. You can begin by talking, changing our ways, knowing Mother isn't going to let us carry on like this, always, like there's always a tomorrow.
Do you care?
Do you know what?
Care what happens when you die, when no one notices?
Do you care?
Will any one of us, excuse me, do you care? Will any one of us,
and then together,
epitaph.
Do you care
you died before your time for money?
Yeah. Yes, my old buddy Vincent. And everybody here, thank you. I don't know how that worked. That's good, that's good. I think it is. I wanted to make sure I had this in there. I wanted to make sure I got I know, like.
Are we done?
That's good. I went like this and.
I'll unplug it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take care of these door prizes here. I didn't mention the following 6. Yes. So, 2 co-pilot seats, mini feature, last word keynote, and choosing the chamber prompt, just so you know. It's all, I don't want to say it's all good, because that's not really. I'll get